Welcome back to week 6 of Earth Systems, which is grade 5 science. Over this unit, you've looked at the different layers of the Earth from the very middle of the Earth, which is going to be our geosphere, all the way up through the hydrosphere and the atmosphere, all the way into space. This week, we're going to be looking at how these different spheres, as we call them, work together. Well, a key term that I want you to really think about is called interdependence. And interdependence is when things work together. So think about the different parts of the word. Inter is within, and then dependence is working with one another. So things working together. So that's what you're going to be thinking about this week as you create your Prezi. If you don't know how to create a Prezi, you can either YouTube it, or there's also a link on the orientation page. But what you're going to be doing is creating this Prezi, and it's going to bounce around and tell us about these different areas and how they work together. In your Prezi, make sure you have a title page, and all of these I'm calling pages. They're actually going to be bubbles, as you see when you go into Prezi. You'll have to have a page for each of the layers, which would be the geosphere, the biosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. Make sure within that you include what the layer is made of, where it's located, and if there are animals and plants, what animals and plants exist there, and why that layer is important to us on Earth. And then a page that draws your conclusions on the driving question, which is what we first read in the unit. And if you were to take away one of the layers, what do you think would happen? And why are these layers interdependent upon one another? So how do they work together? For your math connection this week, I want you to open your Google spreadsheet titled Water Uses. This was from week 3. When you open that up, and it's going to, remember you listed the different ways in which you use water, and I mentioned that you're going to be coming back to this at the end of the unit, I want to, in the third column, list your water uses on a given day again. So you're going to be comparing and contrasting how you've changed the way you use water now that you are aware of the importance of fresh water. Make sure you add that total quantity of water used and compare the two numbers, and look and see if your total is less or more than it used to be. On your Math Connections Unit 3 document, then answer the following question. Did you use less water after becoming conscious of how much you were actually using in a day? And make sure you explain why or why not. Lastly, for your literacy connection this week, you'll be editing and submitting your final paper on water conservation. So make sure that you write your conclusion, which is going to reiterate the main points of what each section stated and why it was so important to conserve water. And then make sure that you check for spelling and grammar. And then lastly, very lastly, read your paper out loud to someone in your family. As you read out loud, you're going to be able to catch some of the errors because you're actually going to be reading using your voice. When we don't use our voice to read and we read silently, sometimes we skip over errors because our brain knows what it should look like, whereas your voice is actually going to tell you when there's a mistake. The very last thing is make sure that you look at these last couple pages of the presentation. There's going to be a unit checklist, and these are all the things that you should have turned in throughout the unit. Then there will also be some rubrics. The first is going to be on your presentations, and that's going to be on all of them. The next is going to be on the paper that you're turning in this week, and lastly is going to be based upon science concepts.